And here we are. It's Wednesday night, which means Earth's Mightiest Critics are talking movies live with
Hmm.
you. And tonight we're talking about a movie that is also about the movies. And I don't mean to throw a curveball at you, Don, but I kind of need to
I'm okay.
talk about another movie that's about the movies. And this being award season,
Hmm.
I'm going to take a guess that you have seen Joaquin Trier's Sentimental Value.
I have not. I'm behind. So
Okay.
there goes that curveball right out the door.
That
See you
that's
later. Yeah.
that's fine, but
Yeah.
you're in for a weird
I've heard it.
experience.
Yeah. I'm supposed to probably pack the tissues for that one. So I'll get there.
It's not only that, but it is
Okay.
eerily the art house mirror film to Jay Kelly, which is the
Okay.
movie we're talking about
Okay.
tonight. The coincidence is, and I'm just going to read these off of the notes that I took. Now, in fairness, I still have 10 minutes left of the movie to watch. It's another long
Of
one,
Jay
but this morning
Kelly?
I was of Jake. No, of
Of
Sentimental
sentimental
Value.
value. Okay.
Yes. I was talking to
All right.
Jeff York this morning, and
Hmm.
he mentioned that the films are very similar. And I was like, "All right, I'll give it a shot." And man, I
Yeah.
was like through the Stargate in 2001 watching this thing. But just get this through your head.
Okay.
Um, Sentimental Value also features. It's not about an actor, but it's about a film director. Right?
Hmm.
He's got two daughters, one of whom is kind of in show business, and the other one is struggling financially. There's an aging filmmaker character who's hoping to get one last shot at the big time. Uh,
Okay.
there's the courting of a younger star. There's a career retrospective that needs to be attended. There's scenes where memories bleed into the fabric of reality. There's an older filmmaker named Peter who hasn't worked in years. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Eerily
I
similar
could
all of a sudden. Hmm.
yes, and I will say that that double feature over the last couple of days has made for a rewarding experience. So when you get to Sentimental Value, and I highly recommend that you do, you'll get
I
to
will. I
see
will.
two topics, kind of like the dueling asteroid movies of the 1990s, two
Mm.
different approaches that have very different results. So it's not like you watch
Yeah.
one and you
Yeah.
think, oh, I've seen it. You watch one and you're like, oh, I've seen the Hollywood version of it and I've seen the real indie version of it, but they both have very
Hmm.
important and very different things to say about fame and art and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into all that, but first I want to welcome Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Lesson and Cinephile History of It podcast. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me as always.
All right. Well, I know I threw a lot at you there, but it's kind of a
Hmm.
warm up as we get into the movie. Jay Kelly, before we get to that, is a Netflix film,
Yep.
and Netflix has been in the news since we last
Just a
spoke.
smidge. Yeah.
Yeah, last week it was announced that they're buying Warner Brothers. That was the news on
Mhm.
Friday, but then on Monday, a mere 3 days later, guess what? Paramount steps in with an
Right?
offer that's 20 million or billion more
Billion.
dollars, like billion with a
Billion,
B.
Dr. Evil. Billion. Yeah.
Yeah, which what's known as, I guess, a hostile bid in the biz. So I want to just we're not going to know what the deal is with this whole
No. For a while.
Warner's
Yeah.
Netflix Paramount thing because it still has to be agreed upon and then it has to be
Hmm.
approved by government regulators. We're looking at
Hmm.
sometime in 2026 for all this. So I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll do a show covering like the fallout from that. But I want to kind of create a time capsule here and just say
Okay.
what do you anticipate will happen with this? What do you hope will happen?
Hmm.
And maybe even what do you
Yeah.
hope won't happen?
Um. For those three layers, I expect, anticipate off the bat is contention, as we already have with Paramount here. I think there's a lot of I think the tension is going and the pushback is going to come from CEO Ted Sarandis
Surrenders,
Netflix
yeah.
CEO Ted Sarandis, where he's got to kind of prove, hey, I'm the best person for this particular course of action because the stigma. We're in Chicago, we're not in LA, but like the stigma around town when you play it that way with the circles of people we talk to and the all the people who really take film seriously is Netflix is a big bad wolf and like there's a large contingent of people who just won't give it its due, people who won't give it very much credit, people who won't vote for awards, people who are trying to kind of abstain and stay away. So Netflix has to kind of say, hey, we're doing this, and here's the best way we can do this to present this to kind of win you over. And I don't know how they're going to do that. I'm all for. I don't mind the my hope is, and I wrote an editorial for Film Obsessive that ran this past weekend, where I everyone the large majority of the social media noise I see is just doom and gloom, and the death knell of movies and cinema and theatrical presentations and all that. And I tried to, and I acknowledge all that. Like Netflix can act like the big bad wolf that it tends to be, where they can squish out the theatrical experience and favor their own streaming platform and model. And I get all that, and that's their business if they win that bid to do it. I hope they acquire Warner Brothers and see that there's a strong physical media market that comes already built in with Warner Brothers. You're going to quadruple, if not quintuple, your studio space by acquiring everything in Burbank that you can make movies and TV on. So I would like to think you can get better product than you already do. And then I hope Netflix keeps getting pushed back in terms of like, maybe it is awards and acclaim where like, hey, your movies just aren't in theaters enough for anybody to care, let alone voters to care, or let alone the public to care with it. So if they can kind of like get into the theatrical experience at least a little bit more than they have. I mean, we've seen Jay Kelly and Frankenstein in this year's award season contenders kind of make it to the big screen, but very limited in very small places. They've bought their own theaters, to one in New York and one in LA, to show their own wares at, and then show other repertory things on the side just to say they're operating theaters. But maybe they see like, hey, there's money to be made, because Warner Brothers just had a banner year in terms of box office, where, hey, when I think Warner Brothers made $4 billion, where if Netflix all year made $33 billion, what's four more? That we, if they can be like, hey, if we can be the best of streaming and then get Warner Brothers clout with theaters and make $4 billion more money a year, why would you not want to do that just to be like, hey, we're the streaming guys? What I hope doesn't happen is everything everyone's ranting about is 17-day theatrical windows or even less. I don't want to see them abandon physical media. And then with any merger, it happens no matter who you are, and no matter what industry you're in. The reduction of workers. You have two people can't do one job in one company when you merge two companies. So you're going to see some people out of work, and that sucks. But from an entertainment standpoint, yeah, I think this is the person I'm going to watch most closely in this next year is Ted. He's got to sell us on why they're the best for this, not just because their pockets are deep, but because they have a true vision of what this can be other than just Netflix Max, So we'll see. What do you think?
This is going to sound like a cop-out. I don't really know what to think because it's too early.
Yeah.
I don't like some of the things I don't like some of the things I've seen Ted Sarandos say about the theatrical experience. Like along the lines of nobody cares about it, theatrical's dying, streaming is where it's at. We've been in, since a little bit before COVID, at least we've been in the, our theater's dying conversation, whether that's streaming or the bug or, all this other stuff. And now we've got all this consolidation. It's a very weird landscape because the Skydance Paramount merger happened in July, and now they're talking about getting Warner Brothers potentially. So I'm not sure. I think it would be it also seems insane that given Warner Brothers having this incredible year with I think they had a streak of 14 box office number ones that was broken by one battle like after another. But up until that, I mean, they were just raking it in. So the idea that they would need to be bought by anybody, I think, still has people scratching heads until you realize that, up until that point, like the beginning of this year, when they're looking at Mickey 17 and Companion, and Companion's a fantastic movie that not enough people are talking about, but it was questionable whether or not they were going to have a decent year, and it turned out to be gangbusters. So it would be cool, I think, if the companies got together and in the spirit of merger and not necessarily takeover, they said, what can we learn from each other? Netflix can be like, what is the secret sauce for you guys making these blockbuster films? And is there some merit to maybe exploring more theatrical with Netflix? Because I think the film at hand tonight, Jay Kelly, is very cinematic. And I know I was the one guy on the planet who was extremely down on Frankenstein, but that was mostly in terms of what it did to the from the adaptation of the source material aspect. Looked great. Del Toro is the $1 million, the looks like $1 million guy that I think should have gotten more a legitimate theatrical run. I think
Mm-hmm.
Jay Kelly too. This
Yeah,
feels like the perfect kind of holiday movie, even though it takes place in the suburb, these like
yeah,
luxurious European locales, everything's sunbaked. But it did have that kind of a this is a Christmas movie. I'm just gonna say it. It's
totally.
weird to say it doesn't take place during Christmas, but it has that
No,
holiday feel.
yeah.
Um,
You want that warm, like you said, warm, sunny counter programming while we're all shivering our butts off trying to get to the movie theater.
right. And so let's we'll put this in the time capsule. We'll come back and see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, neither of us made the grand prognostications, but we'll just go back and see.
Yeah,
Hell, maybe Disney buys Warner Brothers.
yeah.
Ultimately, I
No,
don't know.
if there's one last grand prognostication, there's no way a deal like this is the death knell of cinema. I'll put that in the time capsule. Like, we will always have theaters. There's too much money to be made when the big stuff breaks what the big stuff makes. Like, when you have these $1 billion, $2 billion hits, now I know they're not as many as they usually are, and they're normally from IPs, but when Netflix picks up the amount of IPs that are available under the Warner Brothers umbrella, they're not going to stop making movies, and they're not going to stop making money. Is it going to get a little harder for little things to get their shot? Maybe. And then I think one more time capsule thing I'll place here is this, and it's something I've been ranting about for years on anybody who will listen in small spaces, editorials, things like that. The Paramount Accords that got rescinded years ago about studios being able to buy and own their own movie theaters rather than go through the middleman and save 50% by or having a 50% split with theatrical distributors and AMCs and all the chains. That's been lifted for several years, and the sunset period is over. It ended in 2022, where I'm surprised by now, maybe it's post-COVID where things are just low. I'm surprised by now a studio hasn't said, Disney theaters presented by Disney with the gift shop in the lobby and all their films on their own screens, and go ahead and they just buy a fledgling AMC or a struggling Cinemax, or they just buy out one of these companies and convert them all to their brand. And then they keep all the money and not do a 50-50 split with theatrical chains, and they put their gift shop in the lobby and they just have their own houses. I'm waiting for that to happen when movies can kind of get bigger and get better, or they just recover post pandemic, and we're still in that kind of flux. Amazon kicked the tires on buying AMC twice in the last 5 years, where if there was a company that was going to make that leap, all of a sudden you thought, ooh, Amazon, and Amazon Studios puts out not a lot of movies, but enough where if they have their own houses, that would be pretty sweet. And if they had the clout of AMC level stuff, even if they play the power play of like, hey, you got to come through us now, and Amazon gets a little piece of that pie from Disney, Warner, or whoever needs to put their movies in their places, that would be a fun power play for Amazon. I'm stunned that some theater hasn't done it yet, especially with movie business being so low. Buy
Well, I
low,
think
sell high. You know what I mean?
well, I do get what you're saying. I feel like that model and this I'm
Mhm.
prepared to eat my words on this, but that model sounds good when things are going great for movie theaters.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you think about it, you'd almost need a multiplex of multiplexes. Like, I'm gonna go to the
Mhm,
Disney theater, I'm gonna go to the Sony theater, I'm gonna go to the
mhm.
whatever. It's like you don't
Yeah,
wanna getting off your butt and driving to a Cineplex seems to be a too big a chore for a lot of people to handle unless there's a
mhm.
huge buzzy event movie. But
Yeah,
having to go like, "Oh, I gotta go
to
5
4 different
minutes down the
things.
street. I went to the wrong theater.
Yeah.
I gotta go,"
Ah,
you know?
I'm at the
Yeah.
Paramount one. I need to see a Disney movie. So, but maybe with all these weird little mergers, like, Paramount, for example, if Paramount and Warner Brothers on their own have 2 or 3 movies going, you don't need to have a 15 screen theater. Or if you just have a 8 screen theater and you show your 3 movies on 2 screens, like, or you don't have to have these mega. I think the day and age that we had in the 90s of the 30 plex, the
Mhm.
AMC Canberra out there in Naperville, like, I don't think we need those anymore. I wish those were alive and well, because when you have 30 screens, you can show sentimental value and spread the wealth where you don't need 15 screens for Wicked for Good. So i- if they can, if brick and mortar is expensive, if they can go smaller than the megaplex, it would, and they just, and if every theater is a pristine IMAX amazing thing, you could do it. If there's, imagine a 4 screen IMAX screen that has 4 bangers, but that you're right, they have to kind of be under the same umbrella of, well, a Paramount or Netflix or Warner Brothers movie would be interesting, or a Disney alone could probably they can do their own. If there's a theater or studio that can put 6 movies out at a time and keep a theater full all year, it's Disney.
Right. I mean, because like Disney now owns Fox, and it's got all the Marvel properties and everything. So they would have probably the biggest multiplex on the block if we're looking at such a thing. But I also imagine, like, if they, and again, I'm not advocating for, AMC or Regal to go out of business. If the studios really were to make a play to buy up all this real estate, then they could feasibly work out kind of interlicensing deals. So the Disney theater could show a Paramount movie, but it's like you're only going to lose 25% instead of the 50% split or something like that. Yeah.
I think if they all got together in a room and admitted that hubris or made those deals, it could be done. They kind of already do it now. Netflix, it feels like in the last 5 to 6 years have started to lean on their own productions and products and not the, hey, we need to buy some content from Warner Brothers that we can keep on the service for 6 months, or pay that money and overhead to bring somebody else's content in. Netflix is starting to make enough of their own content that their channel is their channel, and then a smattering of hits from other places like Sony and Paramount, who don't have their own streaming services that can, I'd not say lend their movies to Netflix. They're paying a hefty, Netflix is paying them for it, but they already have that model of, hey, we'll pay you to put, to get some acreage on our scroll. What's not paying acreage in the movie theater too. So it wouldn't be too hard. I'm waiting for somebody to play nice and do it, but maybe that's Warner Brothers. Like, no one says David Zaslav is doing very good and does great business. So until somebody wise sits in the room and brings people together, I don't think that's Ted, but we'll see,
Well, I mean, Zaslav, he is, at least he's the head of a studio that's doing something right. So
right.
And that's the thing. It's the hubris and the perspective. I mean, people were shouting at Disney, years ago, like, what are you doing? These movies are terrible, and you're running your properties into the ground. You need to get someone on Star Wars and Marvel who has a game plan. Like, no, this gravy train's been going for half a decade. It's going to continue ad infinitum until people realize there's no scripts or game plan for these things, and they're all kind of terrible. And then you end up with billion-dollar losses. So, well, I guess we'll have to see. But the movie at hand tonight, as I mentioned, is a Netflix film by Noah Baumbach. Now, I was skeptical about Jay Kelly because it's George Clooney starring in a movie called Jay Kelly. You've got it's as alliterative as you're going to get. And it's about kind of an aging movie star who's having a later in career crisis. What does it all mean? Adam Sandler plays his agent / wannabe best friend. He's going to Tuscany to receive an award, which he actually turned down, and then he decided he wanted it because his daughter is going to be backpacking through Europe, and he wants to bond with her. Lots of things going on in this movie. But I guess I should not have underestimated Baumbach because he's one of my favorite filmmakers. I mean, from While We're Young to Marriage Story. I mean, he knows how to do, I think, solid dramas that are deeper than people might expect from something that is mostly a showcase for giant movie stars. What did you make of Jay Kelly?
I loved it. It's one of my best films of the year. I just like its balance. Like you said before, Noah Baumbach can write things that have the right sprinkles and touches of drama where it needs to be dramatic, but then comedy just to lighten it up or just to break the drama. And the movie is so surprisingly funny to me and not funny because Adam Sandler's around or because George Clooney is a bit of a ham. Like, it's funny from just circumstantial things of like a guy figuring this out, or the trappings of the job that the underlings have trying to chase after this big star. And yet those moments come in a balanced way where you laugh for a little bit, then all of a sudden it swerves on you and like, oh wait, I'm laughing at something that probably isn't all that funny, and realize that there's a little bit of depth behind it. A classic example of this is that restaurant scene with Billy Crudup, where like, first 5 minutes of that scene, you're like, oh, hardy har har, boys getting back together, old guys comparing the notes, and then Billy swerves it on him, and you're like, whoa, hold on a second, this is not going what we thought it was, and we feel a bit of a trap coming on, and how we don't know the history and the flashbacks of all that yet, but it will go into those places and how maybe he didn't do this all the nicest way as a star, and to open there and it's still a road movie. It's still silly, you know. But to get there and still kind of like weave what you can weave in terms of remembrance and nostalgia, at least personal nostalgia, I was impressed by just this balance. I got to give some credit to Emily Mortimer. She is one of the cast members in terms of one of the people helping George Clooney, but she's the co-writer of this movie, and kind of the person who brought this idea to Baumbach, and Baumbach expanded it from there. And that's
I
really
did
cool
not
to
realize
see.
that.
Yeah, and this is her first feature screenplay, and this is an actor writing about actors, and for her to find just these little, not necessarily like inside mojo language, but just like the reality of it, like there's some family first, and then there's some family last. Like there's so many layers to this than just cantankerous movie star stuck in a rut. You know, there's more to it, and I was so impressed by the layers and balance that was in here.
Now, I've got some
Mhm.
questions that
Sure.
maybe if you can't answer because of firsthand knowledge, maybe we can kind of talk it out and see where we end up.
Mhm.
But you were able to go on a kind of a little, like a press junket like a month
I
ago
did.
or a few weeks
Yeah.
ago to see Jay Kelly, and then also got to sit on a press conference with a lot of the principals like Baumbach
Mhm.
and Clooney and Sandler. And was Emily
Yeah.
Mortimer there? Yeah.
I mean, Mortar was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and kind of talking through all this, my question coming out of this movie, and honestly, while watching it, was
Mhm.
how much of this is Baumbach and I guess Mortimer
Right.
guessing at what a Clooney-esque kind of actor
Mhm.
would go through in a late life crisis
Yeah.
versus, hey, we know George, we're friends. This is a fictionalized but kind of based in truth version of his story.
Mhm. This I learned out there in Los Angeles where, Baumbach and Mortimer got to talk to us the most because they did a quick little, like, nice little cutesy table side press conference with, you know, them talking to us where it is the principals and Baumbach and Mortimer. And they picked a few questions, they answered a few things for half an hour. It wasn't too much, and we didn't get a lot of one-on-one time or really, like, expand or probe a question deeper kind of time. We did get some extra sit downs with Bombeck and Mortimer. Same thing. We can only really ask a question or two, but you get a little more depth when they're sitting in front of you at a table. And to hear from Mortimer how much she kind of molded this over, but how much this was also kind of written for George. Like they didn't really have anybody else in mind but him. I don't know where this would have went beyond him. Friend of the show, former friend of the show, current friend of the show, E-Man and I, Emmanuel Noisette, he was out there for the same thing. And we kind of talked about it afterwards, like, could anybody else like be in this spot? Like, oh, insert star. Could you really just put anybody in the Jay Kelly role? And we both argued that you really couldn't. Like, if you do, you'd have to change a few more dynamics in the movie, and maybe it wouldn't be as sunny and simple. Because everyone else kind of brings more baggage or brings a different kind of hefter or level to it. So to hear Mortimer and Baumbach just say, "Hey, we were just trying to do the, you know, get play into where George can go, but at the same time, put our ideas and memories and things that he's willing to share and do." And you're right, the parallels are strong because George, you know, is a notorious single bachelor until he was married a few years ago, where I don't think he has children. And it's not all George, and it's not all like he's not the guy, you know, taking somebody else's audition. Like there's not a these small, very personal things that happen to Jay that become flashback worthy material. None of that's really George, I learned, but it's a lot of like just stories on the set, peers and people, and things that they'll compare and do. And it was really interesting to kind of look into this cast of principals and realize how many people are, I don't want to use the term nepo babies, but people who've just been in the industry since their youth or their families are into it too. Because, you know, Baumbach is married to Greta Gerwig, so there's a Hollywood couple thing going on there, sharing time, having families, where Greta Gerwig's in the movie practically probably playing herself with two kids at home, and where Noah's
Mm.
working, you know. And then Emily Mortimer is married to Alessandra Nivola, who's also an actor, and they have children together. And how they talk, and that was my question to Baumbach and Mortimer was like, when you're working, I said, who's Adam Sandler and who's Greta Gerwig in the relationship? Like, who's the workaholic? Who's the one that's home with the kids? And when you're that person, how does that work? And they both Baumbach and Mortimer, who again have their spouses that are in the industry, so we take turns and we FaceTime a lot when we go to bed, and we try not to work at the same time, or we really kind of put that patience and planning into it. Like for example, Baumbach was saying he's finishing obviously this and the tour that goes with it, and then Greta Gerwig's going overseas to do Chronicles of Narnia. So like that's a
Right.
big overseas, far away, mommy's gone at home, Noah's gonna kind of take it over thing. He's like, and then Emily said the same thing. We both take turns, and it's Mr. Mom or Mrs. Mom, and they figured that out. And it's neat that Clooney's probably never had to do that. Sandler does. He's got 2 daughters that he's grown into the industry. They're acting in his movies. And then Dern, her mother just passed away. She was in the industry. Clooney is the nephew of Rosemary
and her
Clooney,
dad too, Bruce Dern. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like everybody there, when you think of the depth of that cast, knows this probably all too well, where they've had a bedtime story read to them by a manager or a publicist because mommy and daddy are busy, So to put those stories in there was everyone was sharpened on their game because this is their game. It's not a outsider making these things up or making it too fairy tale, even though the movie goes fantastical and flighty here and there. You can still feel like this is coming from something,
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that answer, which I think was very good, I kind of got to what I was thinking in terms of specifics. Like you mentioned, the audition thing was kind of made up, but I mean, are we sure? I'm not trying to accuse Clooney of I'm not accusing anybody of doing that. But what I loved about that moment, and specifically the moment that kind of introduced that concept to the movie, because we didn't know that we would actually see that play out in a flashback later on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when Billy Crudup plays, I think his name was Nathan. He was he was an old acting buddy of Jay Kelly when they were both starting out in Hollywood and going on auditions and everything. And the Crudup character was acknowledged to be, he's a fully method actor. He was the better of the 2 actors. Jay Kelly was he was sincere, but he was also kind of the pretty boy. And what I loved is that Baumbach and Mortimer took an anecdote and they included the anecdote in the movie, but we've seen it 100 times reading stories about famous people. Like, oh yeah, I went to an audition with my brother who was actually, I was just there, or I drove my friend to an audition and then they ended up wanting to see me and I got the part. And Crudup's character says, they never talk about who the friend is or who the relative is. It's always just, Jay Kelly or whoever goes on to be famous. And they're just these little details that they kind of blow up and explore throughout the movie. Now, it does kind of divert into cliche in some parts. Like when we do see that audition, it's the whole thing where they're sitting out in the kind of the cattle call of people and the Crudup character is reading the lines. And then Jay Kelly is like, what if I improvise this? And he's like, what do you mean? And they're kind of going back and forth and they get into the audition and Kelly is invited to read and he does the improvising and that kind of dissolves the friendship.
Yeah.
But it's also very well done, I think. Even though you see it from a mile away, my disappointment is like, I think the writers are better than this. They could have found a different way around it.
Yeah. No, I think the smoothness that I think Baumbach does is like for old Jay to walk through these memories that are, from a staged and theatrical purposes, realized in front of him with the younger actors and the transitions through doors and windows to like walk from obviously a present scene that Jay's into a past scene that he just happens to get to observe as if it's, very Dickinsonian, route through his past. And I really enjoyed those moments. The love scene one with the farting actress, like it's just a soft, tender moment that you likely would remember, And again, like one of those true Hollywood story things where love scenes are never fun. You're trying to figure them out. There's it's cameras in your face. It's not really that sexy or romantic, but at the same time, it was tender between 2 actors who were just trying to find their way, make the best out of the scene. And to watch Clooney emote to that while being present and walking into that flashback. And of course, the transition from the train car to the room looks amazing. Like the practical set work they did was phenomenal.
Right. And 2 things about that. One, you're right. There's a scene where he's exiting this. Jay Kelly is walking through a flashback. He's on a train going to this kind of this film retrospective. And a lot of the movie takes place on this train, it seems like. And he's constantly having flashbacks and memories, but they become physical manifestations of his own reality. He's hallucinating, but to the audience, it looks like he's walking through one door and onto a set. In that scene with the farting actress, as you called her, as he's leaving that scene, he opens the door to the set, and then the sliding door to the train is right behind it. It doesn't look CG. It looks like they built it out like that.
It's
And
not.
it's
Built.
movie magic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I
Just
love
tricks
is
with light. Yeah.
but when
Guys
he's
hopping on a car. Yeah.
right.
That's what Noah said. They're like, there's just dudes shaking. You would never think it, but yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But when he comes into that scene, what I love is that I don't know if this is a Clooneyism or if this is something that he intuited, and as far as his character, something that Jay Kelly would do, but he's having this, as you mentioned, a Dickensian kind of moment. It's the Ghost of Christmas Past kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where he's looking back on his life. No one can see him, but he's observing. And even though that's the case, when the director, who's played by Baumbach in the scene, calls action on the moment, Jay Kelly kind of like sits down gingerly in the back. He's like trying not to make it and trying not to be seen or make any noise. It's just that kind of like an actorly instinct. Even his own flashback, he realizes, or there's like a muscle memory or something.
Yeah. Or even just like, this is a really good memory. I want to be quiet and remember it too, like especially if that's the one that got away. But at the same time, that's layered with you were a better family man on screen with other actors and people than you were to my, to me, your daughter, like the Riley Keough stuff is really strong in this movie, where she gets big parts to kind of go toe to toe with Clooney and just not fall for the charm, blow him off as dad. But at the same time, it isn't your typical ranting and raving, mad daughter who didn't have her dad. She's like, I'm figuring this out. It's not pretty. I'm here. I'm successful. I'm teaching, and it's not a disaster, but it's not great either. So there's just like I said, with this balance, there's just a good barometric balance between enough silly things to be celebrity silly, but not so drastic and horrible that it's just like deplorable. It's silly mistakes done for selfish gains here and there, but nothing to the point of being like, oh, he's a horrible person, and I think they needed, some of that's Clooney, some of that is maybe the script by design, like, hey, we still need to see this guy win, but he's going to go through something along the way to get there, and we might doubt him along the way, but at the end we still need this guy to win, and I think that's commendable. I don't know if I haven't seen Sentimental Value yet, so I don't know if there's a redemption piece to the finale of that movie, but I'd be curious to see how it lays again against this one.
It's a lot. It again, it's uncanny how similarly these films track, covering similar ground, but in definitely more. I hate to say one film is more serious than the other, but Jay Kelly is definitely the glossier, more accessible, I think.
Yeah,
but
by the time we're chasing bikers into Italian cemeteries off of trains, we're getting silly, Yeah.
It is silly, but I also like the resolution of that and how that kind of plays into the story later, because it is kind of a head scratching, like, what the hell moment. There's these two, I don't know if they're Australian like bicyclists who are on this train, and they're kind of like looking out the window when Jay Kelly comes on, like, oh my gosh, that's Jay Kelly. This whole entourage was with him and everything. Then you see him, I think, one or two other times in the picture, and then the next time, the big dramatic moment, one of them is stealing an old lady's purse and running through the train, and Jay Kelly kind of like puts on his Batman persona and chases him off the train into a cemetery and apprehends him, and the kind of security come and take him away. But it's not, it makes sense afterwards, because the guy was off of his medication literally and was having some kind of an out of body out of mind experience, and Jay felt bad about that. The crowd was cheering like, oh, you're the hero, you got the bad guys. Like, I'm not a hero. This guy is having some kind of an episode. I'm having some kind of an issue with freezing. I look very, very
make it
dapper.
Go.
Okay, I'm
there
back.
You are.
Right, but I just like those little details. And there's the whole thing with the parking lot fight with his old friend that gets caught, and the video goes viral. I want to ask you about this, because the one thing that seemed kind of incongruous to the world that we live in, that video comes out like 2-3 days later. I feel like that would be on TMZ within like an hour if someone caught George Clooney beating someone up in a parking lot.
Right. Or even if there's just a skirmish where they're both, busted, because it's not, well, I know from a TMZ level, it sounds like, Billy Crudup's nursing a fun little neck injury and maybe some facial injuries but you're right. Skirmish with Star in parking lot caught on valet driver's camera. Yeah, that does not last 2 days. I mean, you might be a super agent and a super manager to talk it down, and that's where Sandler comes into play. We can kind of detect that a lot of off-screen phone calls have been made about squashing this, and the reveal of that, we're at the dinner where the Italian guests are like, "Oh my gosh, you are trending, Mr. Clooney," and you think the other shoe's gonna fall, but then it's the purse story. So it's an easy win when it probably shouldn't be. And you're right, incongruous to now, but again, we're going for a movie that's gonna let him win, but at the same time, there's guilt there because it pushes down Crudup and the memory of Crudup and the guilt that Clooney has again, like, man, you didn't have to strong arm that guy. We would have sorted this out. And as much as, and that then it leads to the party fallout between Sandler and Clooney, where maybe that was pushed too hard and Clooney's had a few too many, sips of wine, but it just comes out the meanest he is at that party, and that's where you think like, all right, he got away with it, but now he's going to slide back and we might not like this guy before the end of this movie. And now we know why. And yet that still balances to the run in the woods and have one more talk with your daughter scene, and it again washes the few things away, or he figures out it helps out his dad, played by Stacy Keach, and it washes it away. So it is apologetic for sure, but it for what the movie wants to be, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned Stacy Keach as Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
And part of this probably comes out of my own George Clooney baggage, where I figured, oh, he's the dad. He's mentioned, Jay can get him on a flight out from the States to Tuscany, like overnight to attend this kind of tribute and all that stuff. So you kind of figure, well, maybe he's like George Clooney has a famous father. So maybe this is like the movie star dad who doesn't approve of his son or whatever. He's in his father's shadow. But no, Stacy Keach plays a retired John Deere executive who just happened to have a son who went off to LA to become an actor and became one of the biggest stars in the world. And he doesn't care about any of it. Jay gives him a nice, an expensive sweater that he picks up in town, and the dad's like, just take it back. I don't want it. And he leaves early before the whole presentation, everything. And it's so sad because at this point, especially Jay Kelly as a person has been through a lot of introspection and flashbacks, and he's gradually realizing that his career has brought a lot of smiles to people's faces and all that, but he's ultimately utterly alone. He's estranged from both of his daughters at this point, and now his dad's leaving him. And then he runs into Ben Alcock, played by Patrick Wilson.
Right?
He's the other guy who's getting a tribute at this Tuscany, ceremony, and as Jay is chasing after his father, who's leaving in a taxi cab, just like up and goes, Jay keeps running, and eventually Ben's caravan pulls up to him, and you think it's going to be another entourage situation like we've seen with Jay Kelly, like hairdressers and publicists and all these other people, but it's his family. He flew his entire family out to this tribute, and he loves them, and they're all close, and it's like the exact opposite.
Knows them by name,
and then, right. And it's just, at one point, Ben says, hey, Jay, do you think you can spare a ticket or two? Because I brought my whole family. I don't have enough. And he's like, you can have them all. And then he goes into the woods, and it's just so sad.
Which is why Sandler's part is the linchpin of this movie. And I know this is not Uncut Gems level Sandler, but it's still a strong part for him to play this straight, but still kind of play his own little manic overscheduledness like that this character has to do, and the burden of like just being so dependent and attached and even enabling of what his role has to be for Jay Kelly, where all of the, like, Sandler being, by the end of the movie, where Sandler's the last man standing of the entourage that survived between France and Italy, and it's Sandler, and in a moment of apology and in a moment of realization from Jay is, putting his makeup on, like, let me help you out, bro. One more time, one more thing. I'm here for you. And I don't know a lot of us probably can't afford a person in our lives that isn't our spouse doing that for us. But it's kind of a nice
Especially not
little
at 15%.
right. But for this movie, it's a culmination of a tenuous bromance that reaches the right place, and again the right candor, where they're probably still gonna be mad at each other all the way on the plane ride home. But for this little moment, it's a I got you, and I was wrong and you were right, or whatever they need to trade between each other. They kind of do it in a manly, unspoken, one conversation kind of way. It's not a Shakespearean monologue and a soliloquy of a long apology like it would be in a different writer's hands. It's a simple, yeah, man, I messed up. Yeah, you did, and I'm going to call you to the mat for it. But all right, what do we need to do? It is a move on moment that maybe is half earned, half unearned, but it's enough to carry the scene. And again, not cure every problem in a day. We've seen these movies where they're just so utterly convenient with happenstance that it all works out. And this works out enough, but it's still broken and janky. And the only guy sitting next to Jay Kelly is his manager. They have a long ride home.
They do, but I mean that hand clutching moment while they're watching the retrospective,
yeah.
I think I love
It's a
that
nice
moment.
Yeah.
I do. I love it, but I also hate it because for me it underscores the problem with Adam Sandler in this movie. And
Okay.
I agree with you. I really like what he does here, but there's something about the baggage that he brings to this role when
Okay.
he has too many I'm not going to say too many. He has a lot of moments where he is, playing the kind of the wounded friend, and when he gets into that soft voice, it sounds too much like his soft comedy voice, like the mumbling from like
The
Little
Little Nicky
Nicky
stuff.
or The
Yeah,
Wedding
yeah.
Singer or
It
something like
teeters
that.
close. You're right. Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, no." And then during
Yeah,
the
don't go there.
the hand-holding scene, they cut to, they switch the angle, and you see the tear on Sandler's face, and it's almost like a giant cartoon blotch of water. I'm like, "This is
Yeah.
no, that's not none of that's fair to the moment or the character," but it's just it's just baggage, man.
Yeah. I liked it because if if a if the everyman, because he's kind of because he survives and makes it the whole time, and he's the family man with 2 kids and Greta Gerwig at home trying to figure out all his surly hilarious kids, by the way. He's kind of our everyman, guide through this story, where if a regular general public person's watching this movie, none of us picture us being it's George Clooney, but we might be like, you know what, I could be that guy that's kind of the gopher and the getter, and the like you said, the wounded best friend who's just kind of hanging on and hoping that things go their way. Where I liked Sandler as an audience conduit, the family man. Now, I think you tell Jay Kelly 15 minutes and I finish this tennis game, and you don't screw things over with your wife. Like, what's 15 more minutes when you're still packing at home? But again, if it's a TMZ level story that breaks that bad, and if you have to be that person, yeah, you probably have to bolt, but do 15 minutes to finish your tennis game.
Well, but you mentioned something that's very key, because my impression, and I might have to go watch the movie again to see if I still feel this way, but my impression from the beginning is that Jay Kelly and Ron, who's the Sandler character, they work together, but they've been together so long that they kind of are friends, that they have almost like this familial bond.
That lingo.
It's
Sure.
It's not until later in the movie that you start to realize that Jay really does kind of unintentionally think of him as like, yeah, we've been together for a long time and I trust you with my career, but we're also, as he says, I'm paying you 15%. Right.
Yep.
So I feel like one of the reasons that Ron would have ditched his own daughter's tennis match, is because, yeah, the boss man's in serious trouble. And if this goes south, he's going to fire me. And there goes my livelihood.
True. No, I mean, and that's what carries the movie is little livelihood versus big livelihood. You have the little guy livelihood, family man trying to figure things out with his daughter, but having to work for big livelihood, where big livelihood's having a moment, like you said, with the post-career crisis or the empty nest crisis. And to see those two guys figure out each other's mutual, but then divided, having a moment thing is nice to watch. Like, if Sandler's not here, Sandler's just your typical, character actor who's just thrust in there as the BFF. Like, let's say it's Grant Heslov, who's been in Clooney's movies and is one of his producers. Like, if it was a smaller, I don't want to say diminutive actor, but just a lesser actor than another A-lister, that would be just, you know, the whole time, neither one of them could be equals to each other in terms of men. Or even friends, but because it's Sandler, a guy who we know watching the screen, that's Adam Sandler, you know, like, and he's gonna, you know, I would say lower himself into a part like this where he has to play the everyman, and normally he's a big cheesy man-child dork. So I called it a mature thing for him to do, and also, you know, do the second fiddle thing to Clooney and kind of still be Robin to his Batman, pun intended. But yeah, I think anyone less than that spot's not as valuable. And it is foregone conclusion in the movie when, like, oh, he'll figure it out, or Clooney's gonna be fine. But because Sandler's in playing, it's a bigger, and he's having his moment too, where him and Laura Dern are like, we could have had Paris, you know, they have their little thing. So it's, now, how often would all of that come to a head on one trip from Paris to Tuscany? Probably not, you know, between Clooney's deep thoughts and memories and then Sandler's crisis on his own. Like, it's still a little bit of happenstance going through this whole thing, but to merge it and play it as they do, it's fun. I had a blast.
I think that you're touching on something that could be a potential annoyance until you stop and think that the big blow up moments, the big crises in life tend to happen because a bunch of things converge that just become, they lead to craziness and people snap. In this case, we've got this awards ceremony thing. We've got our actor committed. Wait, he just decided he doesn't want to do it. And so they get someone else. And then he decides he wants to do it. And then we've got the personal assistant tracking the daughter's best friend's mother's Amex card across Europe. So they go and start literally chasing them. They land the private plane like, oh, they just decided to skip the French music festival and take the train to Italy. So now we're all getting off the plane and going to a train. Yeah. And so all of this stuff, I could see Laura Dern as the publicist, because Sandler's the manager and she's the publicist.
She's publicist, yes.
And they used to have a fling like 30 years ago or whatever, before Sandler settled down with Greta Gerwig and all that. So that's complicated. But a couple of people on the staff decide, you know what, we're just going to get off here. We're going to leave the movie and let Jay figure this all out, because we think he's having some kind of a breakdown. And I just, it's a great surprise in a movie that has alternating surprises and cliches, because Laura Dern, you think, oh, she's going to be here through the end of the movie. Maybe she tries to win Sandler back, or he tries to win her back. No, she gets off that train and then she's gone.
Yes.
Half the movie through.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, when I sit here and reflect about, like, the culmination moment, Sandler's the last man standing to put makeup on Clooney. Clooney accepts that award. That montage is that's pure Clooney tribute for sure, and it borrows so many roles from his other movies. And I was so stunned that was like montages of Clooney films and not Jay Kelly films, so to speak. Where, boy, that's a heck of a flex. But at the same time, I'm sitting here saying those two have a hell of a plane ride home to, like, that was great, but we're still not right. You got to start a movie on Monday, and like how are we gonna make this work? Because Laura walked, Emily walked. Like, there's some damage control that still has to happen after this big beautiful thing. And I like that the movie has a future that doesn't need a sequel. That just a story that isn't tidy, but at the same time full. Yeah, sufficient.
I don't know if that movie is going to happen. The movie within the movie, because that's sort of the whole, like, kind of a last minute ticking time threat, where Ron has a movie lined up for Jay that starts filming right after they get back from Europe. And he says, and Jay's like, I don't know if I'm going to do it. I want to go be with my daughter or whatever. And there's this tribute and all this. And then Ron's like, well, if you're not on that plane on Monday morning, you can forget about it. Now, they do have their bonding moment.
That could sink him professionally too,
Right. And they do have their bonding moment where they hold hands and everything, but it's that final shot of the movie. I want to set this up because they do go to the tribute, and it is montages of George Clooney's greatest hits. And I think some people are kind of like, it's George Clooney. It's hard to get into this character if it's not, this Jay Kelly is George Clooney. I'm like, yeah, but if you tried to, kind of to your point, have a montage tribute, you'd have to hire like lookalikes and have different kinds of movies and stuff. Whereas you can just pay a simple
Yeah.
licensing fee and get, Out of Sight and ER and
Right.
whatever up there. But while that tribute is going on, Jay Kelly is looking around the audience, and it starts off with him appreciating how much his movies apparently mean to people, because you can see them getting swept up like, oh, I love this
Oh,
guy's
yeah.
work. But then he starts seeing, oh, there's Billy Crudup. There's the actress from the farting actress. There's all these different people. There's his daughters and his younger self. And he starts realizing everything that he's given up in order to make these movies, and ultimately asking himself, not explicitly, but we can kind of see it's going on in his head, like, what is all this for? I mean, my legacy is going to live forever, but I'm not. And that last line, which is a callback to something that he says a couple of times as he's filming scenes throughout the movie, he says, can I get one more? Can I go again? And that's
and
the
he stares
big
right down the barrel of
existential.
the camera, breaking fourth wall right to you. It's sitting in that crowd going, yeah, I do like George Clooney. And what did you say, George? Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a hitter, I like that exclamation point. I can see some people being taken out by that. Like, okay, George, we just leave the glamour project right now. But I liked it that it's probably the most genuine George Clooney can be while still being a character on camera. Like, he's a guy who, again, single life guy. I know he's stable and married now, but he's had his Stacy Keeblers and his bachelor Hollywood days, and his ups and downs of Batman and bombs and things like that, where him at 64 or 63 where he is, yeah, I bet that guy would do it all over again, Yeah, well, I liked it. And that's the moment where E-Man and I, sorry to keep cutting you off. That's the moment where E-Man and I are like, I don't know anybody else who could do that spot without being disingenuous, or who could do it so with how it wouldn't sink the film, that he can do that moment and have that tribute happen with his own stuff. Where if that was like Denzel Washington, Tom Cruise, even if you switch roles and that's Adam Sandler, I don't know if you have the same holy cow moment.
Yeah, I mean, it is tailor-made for him. And sorry, I'm freezing again. I don't know what's going on with my.
It's all right.
I think my son's playing Fortnite. That's what's going on. But it is, I think, the perfect ending to a film, and it's also the reason that I think that plane ride home is going to be very different, because I don't know that he's going to want to do that movie. I feel like he's realized he's got to get back to his kids, or at least his one daughter, that's the school teacher who's is going to therapy because of their tumultuous relationship growing up. It might be that he's like, okay, I've just had a breakthrough with a guy that I've realized is my friend of many decades, and he was just like standing there the whole time. It's almost like the Ducky thing from Pretty in Pink, but as a manager. And yeah, it is an open ending, but it's hopeful. It could be seen as a dark ending, because he's like, look, I've spent my entire life making these movies, is all I know how to do, but I also forgot how to be a person. But he is still alive. The movie opens with a character in a film that he's rapping having his death scene. So you could get the feeling it's foreshadowing a dark, tragic ending, but it does feel almost like, going back to Christmas movies, this feels almost like George Bailey at the end of It's a Wonderful Life. Like, he realizes, he doesn't have everything and he's made a lot of mistakes, but he still has life left in him and life left to live.
Yeah. I also like the honesty. I think it might be that last forest flashback when Riley shows up, his oldest daughter, the teacher, and he has that admission of, I would do this again. Like, I would choose Hollywood and work because it made a future for you. It's I wanted it so bad, and then I had to keep it. His little speech of like his career arc of his goal search that he had. That speech he has wherever he has it, I think it's with his daughter.
It's the cell phone call that he's walking to the woods. He calls her on the cell phone, and then she emerges from the trees as he's walking, and they're walking together. But there's
also untechnical. Like, Riley, we just found a fat enough tree for Riley to fit, and we walked up by that tree, and like, there's no Hollywood trickery there. It's just hiding behind trees. So but no, I love that speech because it's big honesty.
It is, and I think, yeah, you could read that as being the tell that he is still going to be a movie star, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the very end of the movie. There was that
No.
tribute
Yeah.
moment where he was looking around that room and he saw the kind of the ghosts from
Yeah.
his past, and it
Mhm.
wasn't like they were all giving him the thumbs up, like,
No,
"It's
just
okay,"
watch the movies. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like he could
I
go the
like
other
your
way on
George
this one.
Bailey thought. I like your George Bailey thought, where if this can be the epiphany to change and maybe make a better balanced life, yeah, like you probably still need. Well, Adam Sandler makes it sound like you still need to take that job on Monday, or I'm screwed, or we're all cooked. So if he does that, but he does it a different way, like maybe instead, like, make more balanced time, spend your time on set differently, connect a little bit better. Like you can, I think you're right. I think there's an epiphany of changed ways, or at least the plan to change ways, and I'll take that.
And on top of that, if he were
Mhm.
to quit, I mean, you got to think, I don't know what the Ron character's situation is, but if he's been taking, let's just call him George Clooney. If he's been George Clooney's manager for 30 years and he's getting
Doing well.
15% of everything that he does, plus we
Yeah.
see like the one scene where Greta Gerwig is on the patio, like on the phone, and the kids are like playing, they're like by their huge pool in their
Yeah.
big estate. They're doing
They're
okay. But
doing
I'm
all right.
thinking,
Yeah.
if Jay Kelly says, I'm going to take a break or I'm going to quit, that could be his in runs to go back to that Ben character, because he's also Ben's agent, and
He is.
Ben drops, or his manager, and Ben drops him. He's like,
Mhm.
you've been paying all this attention to Jay Kelly, and I have needs too. So maybe it's like, well, I'm free now. What can we do together?
Mhm.
I
Or
don't know.
or dual retirement. Maybe Adam Sandler's like, I got enough. I'm fine. I'm done too. I couldn't top this. I couldn't do. I don't want to at his age, because he's 60 as well. Deep down in Sandler's probably playing somebody who's 50 something, but he's 62. Where he's probably like, I can't start another 20-year arc again with the next young thing. Like this is, I had my run. I hitched my start to the right guy, and I'm done. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, he'd be more in the mode of like starting his own like management firm or something like
Yeah.
that.
Training
Yeah.
the next guys up. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say, it's easy for someone to look at this as a vanity project, and that's certainly one
Very
of my
much so.
skepticisms, right?
Yeah.
Complete with the alliteration and all that. But what I liked is anybody can take the lesson that Jay Kelly learns out of this film, whether
Mhm.
you're a movie
Yep.
star or if you're going for that promotion, or if you've got a
Mhm.
hobby or anything that is taking you
Mhm.
away from getting the
Yeah.
most out of your friends and your family while you have this time, the time which just disappears. That's the thing that Jay Kelly,
Mhm.
one of the things he says to his daughter is that
Yeah.
I was on set and then the movie wrapped and I had like 2 weeks
Yeah.
before I started the next thing. And pretty much soon I turn around and it's, 3 decades later. It's all very great, making great art that brings joy to millions
Mhm.
of people around the world. But then what do you have to show for it? And that's something
Mhm.
that I think the whole idea of that, can I go again at the very end? That's for everybody. That's for the people
Yeah.
watching the movie.
Yeah. And for Clooney to look you in the eye and do that, is I'm not as flawed as he's ever looked, yet as of course as pristine as he's ever looked. Like it's neat that despite the glamorous exterior, the flawed man shows up, looks you in the eye, and says, whew, wouldn't we all? I know we do that. We've talked about this, Ian, where every night we do one of these every night we go to a screening is the night we miss bedtime. Every night we
Mhm.
do one of these and pour ourselves away to type on a computer. We're doing it for ourselves. We're doing it to flex our creative muscles. I can tell we both have the itch to just, this is self-expression. This is a little bit of personal adult sanity for us versus just being dad or just being teacher or worker or whatever we happen to be, where you can, for both of us, this is an outlet to come down, sit on YouTube and talk about a movie where consequentially it's not the cementing part of our life that it should be, yet we still kind of find a balance and try, like, yeah, it's, I know we both do it, and it hit that moment hit me square in the face just like it did you.
Yeah. And my camera just hit me square in the face.
Oh,
I
all
assume you
right.
can still hear me. Yes, I use an
I do.
Elgato face cam, everyone.
Must be a
I'm going
good
to try
camera.
plugging
Yeah.
this back in and see. Yeah, it's a very good camera when it works, but
Yeah.
again, it's been kind of like futzing out on me a bit. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can get this back.
Sure.
Oh, here I am.
There you go. Do you feel the same way about nights and like this is a side hustle for the two of us? Yeah. Yeah.
It's a side hustle. It's also, kind of a dream that, everybody who does this with
Mhm.
anything more than like 10 minutes of devotion a day wants to do something with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And, that's, but the problem is, in order to make it big, or to make it into any kind of, not even the big leagues, but any league, to get into the
yeah,
park, you've got to put in a lot of time and effort and luck and all this other stuff.
yeah.
So it takes dedication. That means taking time away from,
Other
more
stuff. Yeah.
important things, or losing sleep. There's a reason I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
um,
Um,
but
do you,
but
I'll push you
but
one more
it's
time. All
yeah.
right.
Please go ahead. Sorry.
Or I feel like I know your answer for this, but are you seem content with the movie side of you and the current place you're in? Like, you got a thriving channel. You have chosen what you're going to spend your time on, what you're not going to spend your time on. You champion the things you like. You don't chase everything like the young bucks that we used to be do. I feel like you found a good balance and a good lane. Do you have that? I think you
No,
do. It's just me looking
no.
on the outside looking in, but no, you overdo it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is I have no gauge, and I've got a lot of other
Yeah.
stuff going on, because I've been out of work for almost 8 months, and
Mhm.
just trying to find the something I want to.
Right, right.
It's that impulse. It's like, I am a worker. I like working. I like being
Mhm,
productive and
mhm.
doing things. And so when I'm not looking for work, I'm doing this because it's something I can pour my energy into. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
people I know people get depressed, and I hear stories like, I didn't get out of bed all day, or I don't
yeah,
get up until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, how? you
yeah.
know, I got to be doing
This
something.
gets you out of bed? I like it.
Well, a lot of things get me out of bed, mostly the need to find stable employment, but
All right, right,
beyond
right.
that, it's
Mhm.
it's structure, it's also, consciousness and mind expansion and appreciation of the
Yeah,
arts, and, like, while we're
yeah,
here on this earth, we gotta figure out what it all means, and
yeah.
somehow I think movies and good television, help us to do
Mm.
that.
I I
Um
I I feel the same way, where I tell my wife, who questions this plenty, um, "This keeps me sane, this keeps me bright, this keeps me wise." But I'm also at a place where if I never go higher than where I am, I'm fine. This has been a joy. I don't want to be Roger Ebert. I don't. This is enough. I'm content. And if it went away
it's
tomorrow, it went away tomorrow.
On a certain level, I feel that, but on the
Yeah.
other, I mean, I'm a creative person, so if it's not this, I'm gonna be, drawing
Mm,
full time again or something. So I've
true.
always
True.
gotta have
True.
some kind of iron in the fire. But also, it's the idea of, like, wouldn't it be great if this was the thing that,
Mm,
got me
hmm.
health insurance and money,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
could
That's
afford
fair.
Christmas, all that good
Yeah.
stuff. But, I'm gonna get off the couch here, and I'm gonna
Sorry.
talk
Sorry.
about
Sorry.
my
I
no,
shoved
no,
you there.
but that's the
Yeah.
thing. This is the kind of film, I think, that inspires these kinds of conversations.
Oh,
Um,
totally.
and the one thing I want to say that kind of ties into this is, there's a great moment in the movie where Jay Kelly gets onto the train, and he's kind of walking through coach, because there aren't any, like, luxury
Mm,
cars left or whatever, because it's literally a last minute thing.
yeah.
And before people notice, "Oh my god, Jay Kelly is on the train," he's looking around, and he just sees people staring out the window, or applying their makeup, or talking with their
Hmm.
friends, and it's just so lovely, because you realize, because it's been established, he can't go to the grocery store, or if he goes to the gas station, he has to, like, disguise himself or whatever. So it's
Hmm.
been probably years since he's been out around regular people who haven't been
Yeah.
fawning all over him and shoving autographs or cameras in his
Hmm.
face. He's like, "My god, this is what it's like to be around people who don't care about me, and I
Yeah.
love it."
It's an enriching little peak where you can tell it just lights a little sparkle in, and we're like, "Oh, wow, this is the wild." Not necessarily the wild, but like, this is comfortable public, and it still turns into a holy shit, it's Jay Kelly thing. But like you said, for a fleeting instant, it invigorates him, and it's really neat to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I bet, and here we go, like with all the people who are in the industry in this movie, they're probably all wishing they could have a train ride with a lady who has warm grape peanuts, and that cute stuff to it. Where like, it would be nice to have it so simple, and it's neat to see um, the people in this movie who try that and who don't try that. Like George Clooney has a place in Lake Como. He's probably the farthest away from being able to get on a train. But like when you hear about Adam Sandler, like the way he lives, where he's as casual as you expect him to be, and just, you know, has his people, has his core, and that's it. Like his circle is wide enough to include family and some things, but at the same time, he's not LA guy. He's a New York guy, but he's not a penthouse guy. Like he's stayed reasonably regular, at least it seems like it. So versus, you know, George Clooney, who's probably got self-tan around every 4 seconds, you know. So yeah.
Or cheesecake waiting for him in every room.
I love that gag all movie. That was so cute. And then he eats the cheesecake. You're like, damn, this is really good. Should have been doing this the whole time, you know. Yeah.
Which is, again, as silly a gag as that is, and for folks out there who've gotten this far without having seen the movie, how dare you? But you know, in his writer, there's a thing where every room he goes into, there has to be a perfectly placed slice of cheesecake. But at the end, when he finally takes a bite and he realizes what he's been missing, that is thematic to the entire rest of the film. Everything in this movie works together to the betterment of the story and the themes.
That's Baumbach. Like, you know, he's taking good flashbacks, he's taking ugly flashbacks, and they're all working for the greater theme. And I got, when I first saw the movie, I saw it for at the film festival at the Cisco, riding with our guy Rob, and I thought maybe that forest flashback was maybe 1 2 minutes. Like by the time he runs away from the party and into the woods, now we're getting over our skis a little bit.
Little Michael Clayton too there in there.
Yeah. So like I was like, once we get to that scene, I'm like, maybe this is one, you know, walkabout too many. But then it's that great phone call with Riley Keough, and it brings it back, it levels it down again, it brings the balance right back to it. And then the last 10 minutes are great. So like they landed the plane, and some of that I think is pure Baumbach, because he just has a way of tying this stuff together without, because this is Wes Anderson. It's a different kind of door slamming, fist slamming on the table conclusion. Or if it's something any thriller or stronger director would make, it's just more, just heavier. And this is just, heavy enough, but still light with its touch on the outside. So, yeah.
Did you see While We're Young?
Is that the hipster one with Stiller and Driver? Couldn't stand the movie. Yeah, because I felt like it was. I get what it's trying to do, but it felt like hipster culture dialed to 12 for the sake of showing hipster culture. Like Driver's a little strong, you know. And maybe I saw it at the wrong age, where that's probably what, 10 years ago now, where I was 33 and not 46, and like, well, I don't know if I would have gotten it, or I probably am supposed to side with Stiller in that story, and I'm like, but I would look at Driver going, I don't act like that. Like maybe he's supposed to be like, I missed the beacon on that one. It didn't do it for me.
I'm not saying rush out and see it, but give another shot at some point.
Sure.
I love that movie. And it's not just because I saw it at the Music Box and Baumbach was there and he signed my ticket stub and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But it does tie into, I would say, even Marriage Story and this. He really knows how to look back on life with with regret and kind of wistfulness, but also bring back an appreciation of what you do have. And it's just the kind of the frailty of human beings that we constantly have to be shaken up to stop and look around. That whole Ferris Bueller thing.
Yeah. If I'm invoking like a movie to pair with this, other than the sentimental value, like this, like looking back on life, but finding enriching places even within your job, it would be, speaking of Ben Stiller, it would be The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yes.
You know, I'd pair that with this, where same dalliance in terms of like, I'm on a bit of a journey, kind of a silly one, but I'm finding all this enriching things about myself and my life while watching it, or the character going through it. So that's the pairing I make with something like this.
Dude, talk about talk about a great ending and a great final shot when you realize what that final cover image of Life magazine is.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps. All right.
Oh, I know. And again, small moment. Like it's not a, I mean, I know Clooney's probably about to have a standing ovation once the camera keeps rolling 10 more seconds after the end of this movie, but and then same thing with like the Life magazine final cover in that movie. It's just a small victory for one person, or I don't know, it's a big victory for one person that's seen by no one. Clooney having his moment is seen by no one but Clooney and maybe Sandler sitting next to him before the applause comes on, and it's more the public facing version of a moment versus what the moment that's going on in here. So I like those moments. I like those kinds of movies and moments that just, the smallness, the, as Sean Penn would say, quintessence of things. So yeah.
That's a great callback. All right. If you'll indulge me, I do want to speed round through these comments.
Okay.
99% of which are from Sajiwa, some of which were before the show happened. It's Wednesday.
Hours ago, looking at the timestamp.
Yeah, 12:55 p.m. It's Wednesday. 2 Sundays for the price of one at Carvel. But I probably should not eat 2 Sundays. Dilemma. Yeah. Anyway, perhaps will be solved by the time this show happens. I hope you got your ice cream. So a showbiz movie about a rich and famous actor. What's interesting about that? I guess I'll find out when I watch the movie later today.
That's the thing. Outside looking in, you're like, oh, Clooney being Clooney. Like, what could possibly go on there? And then the movie unfolds, and here you are. Yeah.
I cheated because I was in the studio earlier today looking at some stuff. Okay. And I saw this comment. Not the Carvel one, but this one about no. It sort of relates to that.
Okay.
Well, we'll flash forward a second. If the story took place in the 60s, Italy, it might be more interesting, but I've not seen the movie yet. Okay.
Well, you lost me at that, Sajiwa. Go see it.
A couple years ago, I was doing my Spotlight India show with Shashwat Mukherjee, and he introduced me to the work of Sajid Ray and his film Nayak, which was in 1966, I want to say. And it was about a Bollywood actor, a high-profile star, who goes on a train ride, which results in a identity crisis / journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to...
Mormon murderer? What are you stealing scripts? No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
but
that I'm not going to argue with Sajid Ray.
No, are you there?
It's the old Siskel thing. It's not what a movie's about. It's how it's about it.
Totally. Well said.
All right. Watching the movie now, cinematography looks weird. Everything looks too pink. They should have gone with a more natural look. Well, you're not going to get that with Netflix.
No.
29 minutes in, just super minor problems of people, nothing great or entertaining or super creative yet. All right. Does not have the same sharp Baumbach dialogue in this one yet. Maybe they improvise this one a lot so far as like a Hong Sang-soo movie set in Hollywood. Then you should love it. Sajiwa, you're the Hong Sang-soo guy. Baumbach entering his Hong years.
Here we go. Yeah,
he's not
young anymore either. Yeah.
Well, no one in this movie was pulling over to eat noodles, so that's a start. So for a movie about dissociative depression episode, the nature of the movie kind of makes sense. It's something, also nothing. It's not a sharply defined movie. The dialogue and shots are not creating something solid for us to react to. A bit like an out of focus image. Disagree
fair,
there,
but we're watching. I'll say fair because I disagree, but fair because. Like these are also how Jay is remembering these things versus maybe how somebody else remembers these things. Like how Rosie has your own memory. So fair there. I can see where that could be a pushback of like, oh, I bet it didn't go that great. Like farting actress or clash with the buddy. Like you're probably giving yourself some minor credit inside, or the guilt's not hitting strong enough. Like you're not falling to your knees with how many things you've done wrong while on this, crazy trip.
Very well said. I like that. The past / audition stuff is interesting. Yeah, we talked about that. That was really good. Farting actress. A little bit like a Woody Allen movie, Stardust Memories, but that one was much better script, more dramatic and absurd moments, better cinematography.
See, I think if you get harebrained with this movie, outside of, like we said, the cemetery purse chase, or that lady with the hot peanuts in the train, like if you go full absurd, you lose the bigger themes, because then the bigger themes are out of reach from something that's so lurid and absurd. So I'm happy it stayed just tempered as it did. You?
Yeah.
Did it need to be wackier? Did it need to be planes, trains, and automobiles?
No, and I think
Yeah.
as much as I liked the resolution of the train scene
Mhm.
while it was, or the chase scene, I should say,
Yeah.
while it's going on, I'm like, where is this leading to? Because you've got the
Fair,
bodyguard
fair.
who
Yeah.
like stumbles and falls and gets up
Yeah.
and he's like, oh my, that was another kind of a fun gag is a couple of
Mhm.
times. I don't know if they
You're
made
never
the rule
alone,
of three,
right?
but they did it
Yeah.
twice where someone says to Jay, you're because he's talking about how alone he is, and
Yeah.
someone says, Jay, you're never alone. And at that point, the bodyguard shows up and hands him a drink.
Right, right. So perfect. Yeah.
It's cute.
It is.
Saw it interesting moments, but overall needs to be
Okay.
funnier. Character has an exotic
Sure.
problem. He's a rich and famous actor. For that to matter, it has to be funny. I disagree.
Yeah.
Like Stardust Memories, not as creative or entertaining. Half-formed movie. It's okay, not great. I feel like we've been making a case against that this entire hour
Mhm.
plus.
Agreed.
Clooney may have been the wrong lead for this movie. Billy Crudup as the lead with Clooney as the Crudup character would have been more interesting and also funny. Clooney is mentally too safe. Um, Crudup is not believable as a George Clooney-esque movie star.
Agreed.
Um, his looks alone, and this is not a knock
Yeah.
on him, but he doesn't
No.
look like he did, in Almost Famous.
Mhm.
And
He's
also
aged
Clooney
beautifully,
mentally.
but at the same time, he's not the star, you know?
Right, and
Yeah.
Clooney also mentally too safe. I think that's kind of the point. He is the guy that you're
It is
not
the point.
sure if there's anything really going on in there. There could be, but
Yeah.
he's just like he's a ridiculously handsome, charismatic movie star guy.
I dabble with the idea that if Clooney and Sandler were to switch roles. Now, Clooney might be too pretty to play the dad of two tennis playing kids and Greta Gerwig's husband, and maybe too old to be the manager, but like it'd be neat to see Sandler play the Kelly part of like, can Sandler be a grand actor who's having the career thing that he's having now? The montage scene at the end of the movie might not be as effective to demonstrate his acting prowess, but like versus Clooney's resume. But that's why E-Man and I were saying like Tom Cruise would make this too much about him. Denzel would probably make this too serious. We thought about the one name I gave E-Man that I said if he was healthy, he could do this was Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis could do this part. If his faculties were with him, where aging, has seen a lot of things, was the pretty boy once, is the old guy now. Vanity is a thing, hits and misses are a thing, and is beloved enough by us to be like, I could believe Bruce Willis having this moment. I think that's the one guy, if he was around, could do this. Because Arnold and Stallone are too big and too hammy, and yeah.
The one thing I would disagree with on Willis, although I think it's the closest choice, it would definitely play up more of the kind of the action hero of him like chasing down that purse
Oh,
snatcher or whatever.
yeah.
But Willis doesn't have the balance in his filmography of all the
Agreed.
dramatic stuff.
Yeah, or even the
Whereas
romantic stuff. Yeah, totally.
right. Clooney's done a lot of romance, he's done a lot of drama, but he's also done his share of action and kind of superhero type stuff. So it really works. I noticed they didn't show anything of his cameo from The Flash in there, but
or Batman. I was hoping for a little One Fine Day with Michelle Pfeiffer. That's kind of my closet Clooney pick. I love that movie.
There
But it wasn't in
there was a shot of him from One
Okay.
Fine Day, but I think he was just by himself. I recognize the coat and the haircut.
Oh, gotcha. I would recognize. I got to peek again then. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Superman having a bit of a bad day due to some memories. Not a great challenge. Crudup seems more in the moment in his roles and less secure. I don't know.
Yeah. Crudup serves a big part though. Like he kicks this whole conflict off, and with a dynamite single scene, like in terms of single scene performances, Crudup, jeez, that's a good scene.
And it's also funny and kind of upsetting, I think, because his whole deal is they find this little dive bar that they hadn't been to since they were auditioning for things, and Crudup is such a method actor and able to get into the moment. He picks up a menu and Jay Kelly like says, okay, read it like you're reading a menu, and so he does, and then he says, now read it like it's a tragedy, and then he does it. It's the same same menu items, but it's just so beautiful down to the smallest affectation. Slasher Fred says, before he became a major movie star, George Clooney had appeared in two 80s low-budget horror movies, which had the titles of Return to Horror High, and Return to the Killer Tomatoes. He was also on The Facts of Life.
Sure was.
While We're Young was much better. I
For me,
can't
no,
make
but
that call.
I can understand why. Yeah, people would choose that one. Marriage Story to me is Baumbach's masterpiece. So, like Leader in the Clubhouse, I'm not a masterpiece guy, but yeah, I think that's the best thing he's ever done, or most mature, most complete thing he's done.
See, that's the thing. I can't choose. Like I can't choose between
It's
this
okay.
and While We're Young. It's just like it's
It's a
just
good problem to
Baumbach.
have. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Um,
Like when you, I mean, I think most people do. What's the award movie he had with Driver last? That
White
bombed.
Noise.
Yeah, like unless he's got 6 of those on his resume, the fact that his cream always rises to the top is proof that Baumbach is not most of his peers who, take a paycheck movie, screw around, do something stupid. He tends to find a good wavelength of his things and his creativity. It probably helps that he writes, 90% of his movies. So yeah.
And this is where I will give. I hope you're sitting down, Sujiro. I'm going to give Hong Sang-soo some credit because I think there
There you
is
go.
sort of an apt comparison, if only in the fact that both are filmmakers who constantly make movies that are probing the human condition.
Mhm.
Now, Baumbach is in the mode where he's getting famous, ridiculously good-looking movie stars to do that. So it might be a little bit easy, as we've discussed, to dismiss those like, oh, there's nothing in here
Yeah.
for me beyond the surface, but there's plenty. So yeah, Don, I think we're going to leave it here unless there's
Okay.
anything that you wanted to add as a capper to Jay Kelly.
No, I mean, if you have Clooney fandom, that'll help. Like if you like his stuff and you like his shtick, and that because then again, that big montage tribute at the end will hit you like a ton of bricks to go with the rest of the bricks. But no, this is, I don't know its chances in the Oscar contenders of things like you hear about Sandler maybe being a supporting candidate and Clooney being lead candidate, but it's a busy field. I think the screenplay is worthy of a screenplay nomination because of just how creatively smooth it is versus some of the other haphazard things that are out there. But no, it's just a really solid movie, and it's almost me being a fan of it as just a movie fan, that it'd be so nice that everyone can get a Jay Kelly. Like I know E-Man and I did the whole Denzel and Tom Cruise thing, but like it's kind of nice that Clooney gets this as much as Baumbach gets this, and it's just I'm here for it. If George Clooney never makes another movie, what a way to go out! But I mean, he's going to keep going. He's great. So, yeah,
Right, and I do love that challenge of like, oh, this is perfect casting. Like, there's got to be someone else who can play this part. Like, really? Okay, who? And you're
Brad.
like,
I
well,
mean,
shoot. And
Brad
you get
Pitt.
the no,
Like that'd be the
because
next guy up.
Pitt is a bit younger than Clooney, and I think that
He's three.
slight difference of
Yeah,
years is
yeah,
important.
and he also just looks younger. Like my goodness. Like yeah.
Right. I can't see Brad Pitt delivering that final line. I think that's the other part of the test. Like what celebrity
Mm.
is it and who can deliver that final line?
Yeah, because you go to like the next generation under him, like in their 50s, would be like Damon, Affleck, Will Smith, and they couldn't look at that camera down the barrel and do that. Maybe Will someday could, but he's got to recover a few things himself. So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. I know everyone's like, oh, it's just Clooney playing Clooney, but you have to play this part and have these beats, and I don't think many people could do it.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing, I'm sorry, and I'll let you go. An underrated performance, I think, in this movie that's great. We talked about this character, but also Patrick Wilson as the other
Mhm.
actor. I think the sit down scene with him and Sandler, he gets
Mhm.
a little bit over the top weepy as he's kind of breaking down. But other
Yeah.
than that, I think it's a fun character. And I think he's a nice surprise to see pop up in this one.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a squeaky wheel on the shopping cart of this one. It just all falls into place.
Excellent. Well, that's a great place to leave it. Don, thank you very much for hanging out and talking about
Mhm.
this Netflix deal and this Netflix movie. I would say this is a case for whatever happens with this merger. Netflix has
Mhm.
to get into the theatrical business because I think Jay Kelly had the potential to do really well if it was well timed to come out like probably during Christmas. It does
Yeah,
feel like a come together out of the cold, watch a movie with a movie
yeah,
star we all kind of love and a really heartwarming and existential dramedy. So yeah, Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Lesson and the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. And was the article you wrote about the Netflix thing, was that for Film Obsessive, did you say?
It was. It was.
Okay.
It was. I said, could any good come from this, or something of that title, where I tried to put all the negative stuff away and like postulate some positives that could come out of it, whether they could come true or not. I was just having fun in an editorial.
Well, I have not had a chance to read it, but I'm going to read it, and I'm going to link it down below. So look for that tomorrow on the replay. And well, first of all, best viewers on Streamboo, wouldn't be a live stream without it. And Sejua says, good discussion. Thank you. I'm glad we got your seal of approval, sir. Anyway, folks, join us back here next week when, yes, we're going to be talking about another Netflix movie. This is going to be Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery.
All right.
Another one Ryan that Johnson do it again.
Played in theaters. Yeah.
Yes.
Big cast. That movie deserves a big screen too.
I'm curious because I only saw the first Knives Out, so I'll be catching up with the entire trilogy to talk about this. So next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, please join us here. Please, if you like this stream, please like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. There goes my camera again. This is awesome. I love it. But I'm just gonna talk my way out of this somehow. But yeah, join us back next week. Oh, sorry, I've already said that. If you want to hear more from Earth's Mightiest critics, including Don, please check out all the information down below. And until next time, here I'm back, whenever that is, whatever that is. Thank you very much, and take care.